Allison, we are here in southwestern Puerto Rico, and down below we are seeing several dozen people living in tents because they are too afraid to go back inside their homes. Puerto Rico was devastated with a 6.4 magnitude earthquake last week, but it has seen a series of aftershocks in the last few days. There has been extensive damages to some homes in the southwestern part of the island. Cities like Guanica and places west of Ponce have been devastated. Now, this is an ongoing concern for people here in Puerto Rico, an island that is still reeling from the effects of Hurricane Maria more than 2 years ago. Many people here want President Trump to sign a major disaster declaration following these earthquakes, and many folks here are still struggling after this hurricane. After Hurricane Maria more than 2 years ago. Just a few days ago, a 13-year-old girl in Vieques, Puerto Rico, died, and her family says that's because they didn't have enough resources on the island, that there is still no functioning hospital on that island. But again, the major concern right now, the more immediate concern that these people are facing, is that many of them fear going back inside their homes because they are waiting for another tremor, another strong earthquake that could potentially level more homes. Now, the largest power plant in Puerto Rico, the Costa Sur power plant, not far from here, it is still out of commission following these earthquakes, and authorities estimate it could take up to a year for it to be repaired. Of course, Puerto Rico's electrical grid is extremely fragile. We saw that after Hurricane Maria, one of the deadliest natural disasters in U.S. history. But again, the aftershocks in the last few days, they've been lower in intensity than what we saw last week during that 6.4 magnitude quake, but there is no telling whether any one of these other tremors could be more serious. And it has changed the landscape of this island. NASA satellites have picked up the change in landscape. It can be seen from space. Again, many people here, we still see some blue tarps in this part of Puerto Rico. Those are, of course, leftovers from Hurricane Maria, where so many people here dealt with major flooding and the catastrophic loss of power that has been experienced. Right now on the island, most of the power has been restored following these earthquakes, but again, the electrical grid is so fragile here. The other power plants on the island have had to compensate for the loss of this major power plant, the Costa Sur plant, on the southwestern part of the island. So we are surveying the damage here, and will continue to do so. We hope to speak with several of these residents that have been displaced. Several thousand people remain in emergency shelters here in Puerto Rico, and they're just waiting, hoping that there are no more major earthquakes as they recover from yet another disaster.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.